some of you have heard this story. There was a man in 1956 who developed an electronic device that would enable you to wear it, and it would cause you to go into a state of consciousness where you could remote view with electronic assist other places. You understand what I'm saying? Huh, yeah. 56. I was 1 year old. I'm no spring chicken. So he offered this to give it to me because he was in his 80s and he wasn't going to be alive much longer. I said, no, I don't want it. I said, too dangerous. I'm already being hunted down by a pack of wolves. And I also said, I don't think it's... But what was interesting, I said, well, what happened to it? He says, there was a front company for the CIA, Alphametric Corporation, bought it, took it. And he had an NSO on it, a national security order, where he couldn't do anything more with it. But he still had some of his prototypes. And I said, no, I'm sorry. I really don't think it's time. I don't want it. I'd rather people learn to meditate and do this holistically. Because if you do it that way, you're going to have enough wisdom not to use these abilities for harm. Now, this is the mistake the intelligence and the CIA and the military, they didn't have the wisdom. This falls into the category, not everything you can do should be done. You know, because you get into this Dr. Strangelovian craziness, like Dr. Strangelove, where just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And that requires some wisdom. So they were lacking wisdom, and it ended up being kind of a disaster. So when you hear about the NSA programs, like that Ed Dames, that was like remote viewing 101, that were non-technology assist. And that's actually in the whole MK Ultra revelations of the Senator Church hearings in the 70s. That was all the entry-level stuff. And in another compartmented operation, it was this high-tech electronics, trans-dimensional physics and electronics. And that was fully developed in the 40s and 50s. So what that means is there are no private conversations anywhere on Earth, the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, Ben Rich said, and we're not talking about Edward Snowden's revelations. Those are linear systems. Those are things the president knows about and the Senate Intelligence Committee knows about. I'm talking about the unacknowledged special access projects, the USAPs, super secret projects, and the real action since the 40s and 50s were in these sort of electronic systems. And that you probably have never heard. I rarely talk about it. And the only reason I'm bringing it up here is to say this has been routinized, scientifically reproduced, since about the time I was born. At least then. This is just one person. I've heard other stories. My military advisor, one of them, was read into or briefed at the White Oaks Naval Facility in Maryland, it's closed now, of a electronic system where they could basically go to any point, any space, any volume of space, like this room, and pull out of what they called the white noise of space-time, the conscious mystical tradition, it's called the Akashic Record, and pull out anything that was ever said or done in that volume of space. That system was fully operational in 1974. All right, 41 years ago. That's when he was read into it. So I'm opening this, pulling this curtain back for you, just so you understand that at the highest levels of the intelligence, or darkest levels, this has been developed. But unfortunately, it's been used for some rather nefarious and unpleasant things. What we need to do is do it in a way that's holistic and use it for the good, okay? And it's a countervailing. Because the other is already running and has been up and running since about the time I was born, and maybe a little before. Some people say some of this was back in the 30s and 40s. Don't forget that even anti-gravity, so on electromagnetic gravitic effect, was T. Townsend Brown in the 20s. That's up to 28, 29, the Kolosky-Frost experiment. So high voltage systems, and they're crossing over into these other dimensions. It's not just free energy and anti-gravity. It's also consciousness-assisted technologies and technology-assisted consciousness. So we have developed these technologies. We, I say, you know, people on this planet using our taxpayer dollars. Your tax dollars hard at work. But not always has it been used wisely. And I think that we have to say, okay, we're not part of that world. And frankly, I don't want to be. Neither should you if you know it's good for you. A lot of people say, oh, why didn't you take that system? I said, are you crazy? First of all, I'd have been killed probably within a day. Secondly, it would have gotten out and it could have possibly been misused by other people. If you develop consciousness in this holistic way, you're also going to develop your heart and soul in a way where you're going to intuitively, instinctively want to do good with it, want to enrich the world, not do it for selfish purposes. And if you do it for unselfish purposes, it grows very quickly. If you don't, there's a karmic bounce back and you find yourself really in trouble, which is what these folks in the military told me happened to all these guys.